Welcome back to WorkWoman. It is Memorial Day. It is Monday. Most of the United States has today off. And I want to talk to you guys about how to motivate your team. This is one of the number one questions I get when we do any event that I open up with the question, what are your people problems? Every business owner wants to know, how do I get my team to be motivated? How do I get them to work as hard as I do? How do I make it so that they're more interested in the growth of the business? And funny enough, I just was about to start this podcast. I was supposed to start like a couple of minutes ago. And then I see in my office here, somebody walk by. It's Memorial Day, our office is closed, and it's one of our team members, which is so freaking cool. It's so cool when a team member shows up, because I didn't ask him to be here. His manager didn't ask him to be here. He's here because of what we're going to talk about today, which is how to create a culture of motivation so it's not you feeling like you're constantly pushing a rock up a hill by yourself. It's a whole group of people that has their interest tied to getting the rock up the hill and over to whatever finish line you have set. So let's just roll into this. The number one question is how to motivate your team. This would be the number one way to create the motivation. These really do go in numeric order. How do they make more money through working with you? Like, what is your plan for your team members to make more money working with you? Because here's the deal. Nobody is going to be interested in working for you for the same amount of money every single year, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again until they retire working with you. It's not a big enough game for somebody. Everybody, there's no exception to this. Everybody wants to be playing a bigger game. Once you figured something out, you want to go to the next thing that has challenges and that you overcome it. And so when you think about how to motivate team members, if they are stuck playing the same game over and over and over again, they're going to lose motivation. So how do you continue to create a different game? Well, you align them with the problems that the business is having. And I can assure you that every single problem that you have stems from not generating more money, not generating more sales, not enough people, customers, clients, patients, whoever that is, buying things from your organization in order for their homes, their lives, their selves, whatever product service you sell to get better. So if you think with, okay, if I need my team to make more money in order for them to be more motivated, all of a sudden it does not become about your team being wrong. Because the other piece of how to motivate your team that sometimes I think gets a little bit twisted is the business owners oftentimes think that it's their team's fault that they're not more motivated. Oh, my team members, they aren't motivated. I have to force them to do things. First of all, okay, let's take a step back. You hired them. Like, at some point, there was a decision made to bring that person in. You gave them a set of roles and responsibilities. Not one of them, I'm sure, actually said staying motivated or whatever your definition of that was. So you never told them what that looked like to you. And then you continue to let them stay in your environment, even if they aren't motivated. And then you get upset that they're not more motivated. And the fourth part of that is you equally don't provide a path for them to point them in the direction of how they can make more money. And so if you are serious about your team members being motivated, you know how you make more money because the business grows. Right? If the business grows, if you bring in more revenue, you make more money, which is why as a business owner, it's incredible when things are going well. It's scary when things aren't going well. But as the entrepreneur or the leader, you took a risk in that process. You have to come up with those same scenarios with the individual team members that work with you. Now, this is where it becomes challenging. If you want your team members to make more money, all of a sudden we agree, like, I need my team to be motivated. If I know they need to be motivated, that means that they need to be able to figure out every single day, like, what it is that drives actual revenue or income to them personally. That likely means that you need to close your books on a monthly basis. And I'm fairly certain that you currently don't do that. And if you currently don't do that, how on earth are you going to create a real plan for people really to believe you so that you actually motivate them to make more money? I think there are 3 or 4 bookkeeping, outsourced controller services that we're looking at in order to provide this service to our clients, because having the excuse of I don't have financial transparency isn't a real excuse for why your team isn't motivated. If you could equate closing your books to team motivation, all of a sudden you would be more interested in solving this problem, which is, okay, I just need to figure out how to close my books, because then it drives everything else. But guys, until Cardone Ventures figures out what this resource is, overpay your team members. Put an incentive plan in place and accidentally overpay them, because this is what I can assure you of. You do not have a 10% of payroll problem. You do not have a 10% of payroll problem. You might be like, Natalie, what do you mean by that? Whatever your payroll is, take 10% of that. Just know, moving forward, out of your whole total payroll, you're going to allocate 10%. We allocate 20% of payroll to incentive comp for our team members, because we do not have a 20% payroll. The businesses that we work with, after the hundreds of platforms that we've done, I can feel very confident in saying 10% is a good target for you, to the extent you can figure out ways to be more profitable, to raise your prices so that everybody can make more money. Targeting something like 20% really is going to be a better motivator for people, but you do not have a 10% of payroll problem. And so, okay, let's think about this. If your payroll is $10,000 a month, or if your payroll is $20,000 a month, take 10% of that. At $10,000 a month, it would be $1,000. At $20,000 a month, it would be $2,000. Over the course of a year, if it's $2,000, let's say your payroll's $20,000 a month. If it's $2,000, 2 times 12 is $24,000. You do not have a $24,000 problem in your business. You have a motivation issue with your team members. And if you don't believe that people are going to be the key, your team members being motivated is going to be the key to you creating success in your business, then, I mean, be a solo entrepreneur for the rest of your life and never create anything big. That's essentially what you're saying when you think with, oh, I'm not going to figure this out. I'm not going to pay my team members more. Close your freaking books, but also in the interim, until you figure out how to do that, and we're going to make it as not complicated as possible so that you can stay focused on the main thing. But in the interim, take 10% of your payroll and structure incentive compensation plans for every single team member in your organization. Just so that I sometimes get questions on this. So just think with, if it's payroll, that's what everybody is making. If everybody is making even $50,000, I think our payroll right now is $400,000. So a month. So $400,000, that would be $40,000 split across every team member, in order to drive behavior towards the things that add value to the business. If you guys have specific questions on this, please just shoot me an email, info@cardoneventures.com. I would love to help in any way that I can, so that you can start wrapping your mind around how to get your team to get paid more, which actually fixes your people problem, which is the motivation issue. Okay. The next way to get your team more motivated is to show how people are succeeding in your environment. If nobody knows that people are succeeding, if nobody knows that your clients are succeeding, if nobody knows that the individual team members are succeeding, if wins aren't shared in the environment, why are we all showing up? What is everybody supposed to be motivated about? Are they just supposed to be motivated because you want them to be motivated? And furthermore, if you never tell people that motivation is important and you don't coach them on that, have they ever been in an environment before where you think that they were motivated? Probably not. And on top of that, why do they come work for you? Did they think that you were going to help them create something that they've never been able to figure out before in a job that they've worked? Hopefully. So if that's the case, you need to show what motivation really does look like, and not get mad or upset or frustrated or lash out or get irritated when team members aren't motivated. We have 3 new team members starting tomorrow. The first thing that they are going to hear when they show up into this environment is how we are winning and succeeding with our clients, how individual team members are winning and succeeding through goal attainment. We've created this culture, and it's not that hard to create. Like, yes, culture takes energy and it takes intentionality, but on a day-to-day basis, once you've put in place the intentionality behind certain key touch points in the business, all of a sudden it just perpetuates itself. So when you're celebrating successes and when you're really demonstrating what that looks like to other people, it's creating motivation for others, because they're able to see that somebody in a similar situation, but in this environment, is winning. And it begs the question, what do I have to do in order to create wins? For some team members, it's showing up on weekends. And that's what gets especially early momentum. But people who really succeed long-term with us tend to show up on more weekends than not. because that is a successful action, but they're motivated because they see other people making money. They see other people hitting their goals. And so they're interested in doing that because prior to being in an environment where wins and success and making more money is important, they've never experienced it before. They don't know what that looks like. Prior to this, it could have just looked average. Most businesses are, I hate to say this, but just they become average at some point. They plateau, and the team doesn't know how to stay motivated. If you are a growth-oriented business and you're really serious, this is where there's this caveat. If you're really serious about your growth, you have to figure out this motivation game, because in order to get from the 1 to the 2, the resources inside have to grow and stretch. Now, if you're listening to this and you don't have interest in growing your business, you just want to create a better culture, or you want to be a better leader, you might have a hard time with helping your team members figure out how to be motivated, because if the top line doesn't grow, how are they supposed to make more money? And then where we started this with people want to play different games, that might be okay for you because you're playing a different game. Maybe with your family, you're able to spend quality time, you're able to do other things, which is great, but that's not going to create the motivation inside the environment to push further than where it's at right now. And you're then hoping to hire people who are going to be good with a stable, comfortable work environment instead of one that is really growth oriented. And the other piece of that is, if you've created this environment and you have this team that's been working in an environment like that for 5 years, and you decide to change, you decide to become growth oriented, all of a sudden the rules of the game have just changed, and you're not going to be okay with people continuing to do the same, but you have to reset what that culture looks like. This is why business is so fun, because there are so many different dynamics at play. There's where the business owner is at with their motivation. I have 2 other podcasts. One is episode 30 on how I get more motivated, and the other one I think is episode 26. I think that's a 6. Is it a 6 or an 8? I think it's a 6. Episode 26, which is like it's called How to Motivate Your Lazy Ass. And I have a lazy ass sometimes too. So we're motivating our lazy asses together. And it gives some tips as to like the different ways that I figure out how to play a game with myself to get myself to do things that I don't want to do. Now, you're not likely going to give your team a podcast that says how to motivate your lazy ass. That's not going to be the way that you want to do this. But I would highly, highly, highly recommend figuring out how do you make your team see an opportunity to make more money. And if you want to share with them this podcast, I actually think that would be really helpful. And if they're interested in motivating their lazy ass, but like genuinely interested, not because you force them to, because there's a difference, then they could listen to the other resources as well. But thinking with, even team members thinking with, okay, how can I add value great enough to be paid more? Just that thought alone, how can I add value enough value to get paid more? What ideas can you guys come up with? How could you brainstorm that? How could you ask them to come up with a plan in order to implement a new product, a service, a different way to engage with your clients? That is such an incredible starting point, because many times people have never even thought like that to begin with, and they don't know that that's possible for them. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this episode of WorkWoman. Please share, subscribe, send it to your friends, send it to your parents, send it to a coworker that you work with who might be struggling with leading a team, or I don't know, leading their spouse. This podcast is just honestly one of my favorite things that I get to do, and such a great outlet. And I've been hearing such great feedback from people that it just makes me more and more excited. And so much of that is because you guys do share it. And I actually ran into a girl yesterday while I was at Lululemon getting a shirt altered, and I was like writing down my sizes and blah blah blah. And she's like, "Is your name Natalie?" And I thought for a second, oh yeah, they write the names on the doors, so maybe she just knows my name because the name was on the door. She's like, "Yeah, I listened to your podcast." I was like, "You listen to my podcast? I don't know who you are. That's so freaking cool." It's cool when you're able to create something and it gets bigger and better because team members and people and strangers share it and get value. So it would mean the world to me if you would share it, if you're getting value out of this show. And I will see you next week.